They built a $2.3 billion ball in the middle of the Las Vegas desert. 366 feet tall, 516 feet wide, the largest spherical structure on Earth. The outside is wrapped in 1.23 million individually programmable LED pucks. The inside holds a screen the size of 3 football fields, wrapping 160,000 square feet around the audience at 16K by 16K resolution. 167,000 speakers, 17,600 seats. 10,000 of those seats vibrate. It is the most technologically advanced entertainment venue in human history, and in its first 2 full years of operation, it lost $601 million. The CFO quit 11 months into the job after the CEO reportedly screamed at him in an executive meeting. Construction companies sued for tens of millions in unpaid fees. The original budget was $1.2 billion. The final bill came in at $2.3. The company that built it is now carrying $804 million in debt on a failing cable network it bundled in to keep the lights on. And the most recent SEC filing contains a sentence so unusual you have to read it twice to be sure it's real. If refinancing fails, the company writes, its subsidiaries would seek bankruptcy protection. The man behind it is the same man whose basketball team has gone 53 years without an NBA championship. The same man who used facial recognition cameras to ban a mother from chaperoning her daughter's Girl Scout trip. The same man who is now trying to build more of these spheres in Abu Dhabi, in Tokyo, in Maryland, on the bet that he can franchise his way out of the hole he dug in the desert. This is the story of how the most extraordinary building of our generation became one of the most expensive financial gambles ever made. And it starts with a bar. James Lawrence Dolan is 70 years old. He's worth roughly $2 billion. He inherited most of it from his father, Charles Dolan, the man who built Cablevision. And he is, by almost any measurable standard, one of the worst sports owners in modern American history. Dolan took primary control of the New York Knicks and New York Rangers in 1999. In the 52 combined seasons that followed, his teams have won 0 championships. They've made 1 finals appearance. The Knicks last won an NBA title in 1973. The Rangers last won the Stanley Cup in 1994. From the year 2000 to 2022, the Knicks posted the worst winning percentage in the entire NBA. They missed the playoffs every single year from 2003 to 2011. And his payrolls were never the problem. He routinely spent more than almost anyone else in either league. In 2005, the Knicks were $74 million over the salary cap. The money was always there. The results never were. And his style of running things is the kind of thing you'd expect to read in a script, not a corporate filing. In 2017, former Knicks player Charles Oakley was arrested and forcibly removed from Madison Square Garden during a game. Dolan then ordered a public relations campaign suggesting Oakley had an alcohol problem, alienating fans and players across the league. He fired his head of security shortly after. In 2022, Dolan deployed facial recognition cameras at his venues to identify and ban any attorney whose firm was suing him, even if that specific attorney had nothing to do with the case. A mother who was a junior associate at one of those firms tried to take her daughter's Girl Scout troop to a Rockettes show at Radio City. The cameras flagged her at the door. She was ejected in front of the children. A Delaware judge later called the policy, quote, "the stupidest thing I've ever heard," when the state liquor authority threatened Dolan's licenses over the bans. He went on television and threatened to ban alcohol sales at a Rangers game in retaliation. This is the man who decided to spend $2.3 billion building a ball in the desert. The Sphere project broke ground in September 2018 with a budget of $1.2 billion. By February 2020, that budget had jumped to $1.66. By late 2022, it crossed $2 billion. By May 2023, 4 months before opening, the final number landed at 2.3. The budget had nearly doubled. The construction was massive. Crews moved 110,000 cubic yards of dirt and caliche rock just to dig the basement. They used the fourth largest crane in the world to assemble the structure, a crane that required 120 tractor trailers just to transport its components to Nevada. They hoisted a 170-ton steel compression ring into place in February 2021. The interior dome was topped off in June 2021. The exterior shell was topped off in May 2022. And throughout the entire process, the costs spiraled. The project management firm in charge of cost control, Ryder Levitt Bucknall, eventually sued for $3.1 million in unpaid fees. Their court filings revealed something the company had never publicly admitted. In one of those filings, the firm's attorney, Lance Coburn, told a Nevada judge that there was supposed to be the world's longest bar inside the sphere. The contractors built it. They poured the concrete. They installed the framing. They finished the surfaces. And then James Dolan walked through the venue, looked at it, decided he didn't like it, and ordered the entire thing torn out. Built it, then deleted it. Coburn told the judge, Mr. Dolan's decision against advice increased the project cost, and now he's blaming us for increasing the project costs. Absolutely, we're entitled to take this man's deposition. That single anecdote captures the entire $2.3 billion story. A building made of moments like that. A bar built and torn out. A vision changed mid-construction. A management team blamed for problems the owner created. Dolan settled a separate investor lawsuit for $133.5 million after shareholders accused his board of self-dealing during the spin-offs that funded the venue. His CFO, Gautam Ranji, quit 11 months into the job in November 2023, days before the company's first earnings call. According to inside sources, Ranji walked out of an executive meeting after Dolan started yelling and screaming at him, went straight to the general counsel, and resigned on the spot. And here's where the story gets complicated. Because underneath the lawsuits, the firings, the cost overruns, and the chaos, the building they actually finished is a legitimate engineering masterpiece. Start with the outside. The exosphere, as they call it, is wrapped in 1.23 million individually programmable LED pucks. Each puck contains 48 separate light-emitting diodes. Together, they cover 580,000 square feet, making it the largest LED display ever placed on the outside of a building. From across the Las Vegas Valley, from arriving aircraft, from miles away in the desert, you can see it. And it transforms. It becomes a hyper-realistic blinking eyeball staring at the strip. It becomes a glowing jack-o'-lantern. It becomes a basketball during March Madness. It becomes a giant emoji. During the Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix, it displayed real-time race graphics visible to tens of thousands of spectators. Anheuser-Busch has rented it. Delta Airlines has rented it. Lego and Lucasfilm built an interactive Star Wars takeover on it. Now, step inside. The interior screen is 160,000 square feet, wrapping 270 degrees around the audience at a resolution of 16K by 16K. That's 16,384 pixels by 16,384 pixels. To put that in perspective, the screen is roughly 40 times larger than a standard IMAX. It's powered by 25 synchronized 4K video servers processing 4 petabytes of storage, driven by approximately 150 NVIDIA RTX A6000 graphics processing units. When you sit inside, there are no edges. The image surrounds you. Above, below, around. Your brain stops processing it as a screen and starts experiencing it as a place. The audio is, somehow, more impressive. The Sphere uses 167,000 individual speaker drivers, hidden behind the acoustically transparent LED screen. The system uses 3D audio beamforming, which means the sound isn't blasted in every direction. It's directed in precise beams to specific seats. Two people sitting next to each other can theoretically hear different audio. A whisper can be programmed to sound like it's originating an inch from your ear, regardless of where you're sitting in a venue that holds 20,000 people. Then there are the seats. 10,000 of them are equipped with localized infrasonic haptic systems. They vibrate, they thump, they sync to the audio. The arena has integrated 4D environmental systems. Wind blows, scents disperse, temperature shifts. To produce content for this space, Sphere Studios had to invent an entirely new camera. They call it Big Sky. It has a 316 megapixel sensor measuring nearly 10 centimeters across, the largest cinema camera sensor in commercial use anywhere on Earth. It shoots at 18K resolution at 120 frames per second. They co-developed it with the semiconductor company ST Microelectronics. None of this existed before this building. When U2 opened the venue on September 29, 2023 with their 40-show residency, the reviews were not mixed. They were universal. Bono called it the future of live music. Trey Anastasio of Fish called it a paradigm shift. One tech executive shared a viral video of the venue with the caption, "Late-stage empires don't build things this extraordinary." So the building works. The technology is revolutionary. The experience is unlike anything anyone has ever made. But there's one problem nobody can solve with LEDs and speakers. The money doesn't work. In its first reported quarter of operation, the company posted a $98 million operating loss. For the full fiscal year 2024, the consolidated operating losses totaled $372 million. For fiscal year 2025, even with the venue running at full capacity, the losses came in at another $229 million. Cumulative operating losses across the first 2 full years, $601 million. The revenue is real. The Sphere segment generated $781 million in fiscal 2025, up 27% year over year. The Wizard of Oz immersive experience, which debuted in August 2025, sold over 2 million tickets and generated roughly $290 million in revenue by January. The Exosphere itself is a billboard that brands like Anheuser-Busch and Delta line up to rent. By any normal venue metric, the Sphere is wildly successful. But the operating costs are crushing. The building runs at a peak power demand of 28 megawatts. It consumes roughly 8,000 megawatt hours of electricity every single month, enough to power between 9,000 and 21,000 homes. The estimated monthly electric bill alone is around $450,000. The Wizard of Oz post-production cost approximately $80 million to produce. Custom 18K content for a single building isn't cheap. And the staff, the engineering teams, the content production pipelines, the maintenance on 1.2 million LED pucks and 167,000 speakers, none of it stops. Tickets that were impossible to get in the early months are now regularly available night of. Postcard from Earth, the Aronofsky daytime film that opened the venue, dropped from $119 per ticket to $99. Dynamic pricing is being deployed to fill seats that used to sell themselves. And then there's the time bomb. During a corporate spin-off Dolan engineered in 2023, the highly profitable but rapidly declining regional sports network, MSG Networks, was bundled into Sphere Entertainment to provide cash flow for the venue. That decision has aged poorly. MSG Networks now holds $804.1 million in outstanding principal debt. Cable cord cutting is accelerating. The network's subscriber base dropped 14.5% in a single quarter. The original debt matured in October 2024. The company has secured forbearance extension after forbearance extension. And in the most recent 10K filing with the SEC, Sphere Entertainment Company wrote, in plain English, what nobody on the company's investor calls wants to say out loud. If MSG Networks is not successful in negotiating a refinancing of its indebtedness, the filing reads, it is probable that MSG Networks and / or its subsidiaries would seek bankruptcy protection. Bankruptcy. Of an asset bundled into the same company that owns the most expensive entertainment venue ever built. And here's the part that turns this from a story about a failed building into a story about a man trying to outrun his own debt. Dolan's plan to make the numbers work isn't to fix the Las Vegas sphere. His plan is to build more spheres. In July 2025, Sphere Entertainment finalized a binding franchise agreement with the Department of Culture and Tourism in Abu Dhabi. The Emirate will fully fund the construction of a 20,000 capacity sphere in Abu Dhabi, paying Sphere Entertainment a massive upfront franchise fee, rumored to be near $500 million, plus ongoing quarterly royalties tied to ticket sales and venue revenue. Dolan's company collects without spending a dollar on construction. In January 2026, Sphere announced a smaller 6,000-seat mini-sphere proposed for National Harbor, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. The project requires roughly $200 million in combined state, local, and private incentives. Maryland lawmakers advanced a bill to authorize $130 million in tax increment financing bonds. Local taxpayers are pushing back. Officials hope to break ground in late 2027. In April 2026, MSG Entertainment entered advanced talks with the Japanese financial group SBI Holdings to build a full-scale 20,000 capacity sphere in Tokyo. The estimated cost runs between 2.2 and 3.1 billion US dollars, more than the original Las Vegas build. The logic, on paper, makes sense. Each new sphere is cheaper because the technology already exists. Content produced for Las Vegas can be licensed to every other sphere in the network. Sphere Entertainment becomes a licensor, not a builder. They collect royalties forever. But the question every analyst keeps asking is the same. You can't franchise your way out of $1.5 billion in debt if the original location is still burning cash. Are foreign partners like Abu Dhabi's Department of Culture really prepared to absorb $450,000 monthly electric bills, $80 million content costs, and the same operational economics that broke Las Vegas? Or are they just looking at the U2 ticket grosses? And here's the irony that makes this whole story feel like something only Las Vegas could produce. The sphere is genuinely revolutionary. Everyone who experiences it says so. The technology works. The concerts are transcendent. The films are unlike anything else on Earth. It might still go bankrupt, because building something revolutionary and building something profitable are two completely different things. The Sydney Opera House went over budget by 1,357%. It was supposed to take 4 years to build. It took 14. It nearly bankrupted the New South Wales government. It is now the most iconic building in Australia and the primary driver of the country's tourism industry. The Concorde went over budget by more than 2,400%. It was a supersonic engineering miracle and a complete financial disaster. It was retired in 2003 because the unit economics never worked. Sonic booms that prevented overland routes. Ticket prices nobody could afford. The International Space Station has cost over $105 billion and runs at a loss every single year. The Big Dig in Boston went 478% over budget. Some of these are now considered modern wonders. Some are remembered as cautionary tales. The difference between the two has almost nothing to do with how much they cost. It has everything to do with whether the world ultimately decided they were worth it. Some things are worth more than what they cost to build. The question is whether the market agrees before the money runs out. So here's the question. If you had $2.3 billion and you wanted to change the future of live entertainment, would you build the sphere, knowing the technology would be revolutionary? Knowing the experience would be unlike anything anyone had ever created, but also knowing the construction would nearly double in cost? Knowing the lawsuits would pile up? Knowing your CFO would walk out screaming after 11 months? Knowing the losses would top $600 million in the first 2 years alone? Knowing that the only way to make the math work is to convince a foreign government, a Japanese investment bank, and a Maryland tax district to each put up another $2 billion to build copies of the same thing? Would you bet on the future, or would you keep your money and watch someone else try? Because James Dolan already made his bet. He called the Las Vegas sphere, in his own words, the first pancake. The next ones are already in motion. The franchise model is signed. The contracts are public. The question now is whether the first pancake holds together long enough for the second one to matter. Tell me what you do in the comments, because the second sphere is coming, and the bet is about to double.